Hi guys. Today we will dive into the Alvin and the Chipmunks iceberg. I'm sure you know what Alvin and the Chipmunks and I don't have to explain. But an iceberg is where the top of the iceberg has general stuff that you will know. But the deeper the iceberg gets, the obscure and unknown the information is. Now without further ado, let's begin this iceberg. The Chipmunks are a band of 3 singing chipmunks. With their caretaker Dave Seville, the 3 chipmunks are called Alvin, Simon and Theodore. The Chipettes are also 3 singing chipmunks, who serve as the female counterparts of the chipmunks. The Chipettes either live in their treehouse or in Miss Miller's home. Alvin and the Chipmunks is a really popular franchise, so it would get merchandise and toys including plushes and more. Alvin and the Chipmunks has lots of meme culture, especially based of the Fox movies made around 2007 to 2015. I couldn't get any videos of those movies for some reason, but the Fox movies is what people would think about when someone mentions Alvin, and it's also known for the crappy redesigns of the Chipmunks and Chipettes, and there were 4 movies in this era. The movies were Alvin and the Chipmunks 2007, The Squeakquel 2009, Chipwreck 2011, and The Road Chip 2015. This was 2 movies made by Universal, one in 1999 and the other in 2000, and I'm sorry I couldn't get any clips of these movies for some reason. Same as the Alvin show and the 2015 series. So you'll have to work with these 80s clips for now unless later. Unless it works, because I was trying to download clips of the movies MP4 instead of just having a whole movie on my hard drive. But anyways, these were 2 spooky scary Halloween movies, and they are pretty underrated, but not the best films in my opinion. As you can see, I finally have an Alvin show episode on my hard drive. But anyways, the Alvin show was the very first Chipmunk series, and the series wasn't really popular, but the albums in this era were really popular. This show also had Clyde Crash Cup segments. Miss Miller was who adopted the Chipettes, and she was a recurring character in the 80s series and the 2015 series. She was introduced in the episode Help Wanted. Mummy when the Chipettes needed their parents for a project, and the Chipettes were in quite a crisis until Miss Miller became the Chipettes' caretaker. Alvin and the Chipmunks is an American animated television series featuring the Chipmunks, which was produced by Bagdasarian Productions in association with Ruby Spears Enterprises. From 1983 to 1987, Murakami Wolf Swenson in 1988, and Dick Enterprises from 1988 to 1990. The show aired from September 17, 1983 to December 1, 1990 on NBC, and is the follow-up to the original 1961-62 series, The Alvin Show. The Chipmunk Adventure was the first Chipmunk movie released, and it came out in 1987, and it starred the Chipmunks and Chipettes as they go on a global adventure to find the dolls to win $100,000, and it got 6.8 million at the box office for people like me. That's 5.5 million pounds. The Bagdasarians are the people that worked on the franchise, including both Ross Bagdasarian Sr. and Jr. The Chipmunks are these clones of the Chipmunks, and the Alvin counterpart is called Calvin, but the name for Simon and Theodore are unknown. In the episode, these producers make the Chipmunks to compete with the Chipmunks, and they go in a dance battle. But during the dance battle, the Chipettes come to save the day by malfunctioning the Chipmunks, so the Chipmunks win. God, the 2015 series is so weird, especially this episode. In The Simpsons episode Homer's Barbershop Quartet, there is an Alvin and the Chipmunks reference. I couldn't find any high quality version on YouTube, so you'll just have to stick with this. Basically, Bart sees a CD called Melvin and the Squirrels, and the comic book guy tells Bart that it's a part of the rodent invasion set of the 60s, and the CD plays. In The Simpsons episode, Gone Boy, the CD returns for one more time. This is a YouTube video, and one of the Alvin and the Chipmunks memes where the chipmunks are placed in a microwave and they scream. There are a few Alvin creepypastas out there, and there's nothing really special about them compared to any other creepypasta, including Bosco the Killer that I mentioned in my Bosco Iceberg video. For some reason, Alvin and the Chipmunks doesn't have too many video games. The only ones are the ones based of the 2007 movie Squeak-Yaw and Chipwrecked, and some bootleg games from the web. These are Chipmunks and Chipettes songs with subtitles, and a lot of people in the fandom do this. I even made a few lyric videos on my Mr. Buddy editing channel. This is my least favorite Alvin character. Don't worry, he's not as bad as him. But anyways, Uncle Harry was a minor character from the 80s series, and he scammed people and was an antagonist of the series. These are also something the Alvin fandom does, but I don't have any or plan to do any. Vinny was the Chipmunks' mother in the 80s series, and she appeared in the Chipmunk Reunion and a later 80s episode called Vinny's Visit. She abandoned the Chipmunks so Dave can look after them. Charlene was the first ever Chipette and was the prototype of Brittany. She only appeared in one song in the album, The Chipmunks Go Hollywood, and in one song where she sang in a duet with Alvin. In the song You're the One I Want, and on the album, she had an image where she mostly resembled Brittany, but with yellow, more realistic hair and a black nose. A common misconception is when fans believed she appeared in Rockin' with the Chipmunks, but it was debunked, and it was Brittany, not Charlene. Robot Chicken is a sketch comedy series made by Adult Swim, and they made a few Alvin parodies. This was a really rare Chipmunk straight-to-DVD movie that was released in 2004, and the DVD only had 2,000 copies ever made, and the film became lost media until pretty recently, when the movie resurfaced and the film is about the Chipmunks and Chipettes as babies and Lolo adopting them. Theodore is the only chipmunk to be canonically vegetarian, but there is a theory that Alvin and Simon might be vegetarian too, because the trio can sometimes be seen in the 2015 series eating salad, and also throughout the franchise there weren't that much meat products. This could also imply that the Chipmunks and maybe the Chipettes are herbivores, or maybe Dave, or probably everyone in the whole franchise is vegetarian. A YouTuber called Granditmias, who made a whole video on it, link in description. Theodore and Jeanette might be autistic refers to Theodore and Jeanette possibly being on the spectrum. Theodore's side of this is because he has an obsession of candy, not like this guy, but he does eat other stuff too, and he watches shows like Talking Teddy, while Alvin and Simon do more grown-up stuff. And also Dave treats Theodore like the baby of the family, and he is the dumbest. Sorry Theodore fans. Anyways, Jeanette's side in this is that she has non-conventional ways of thinking, but is intelligent, or she could just be introverted, I don't know. I honestly don't know why I put this in the iceberg, but anyways. This is yet another meme of Alvin screaming for his life in a femur breaker. There's not too much to this, but I'll tell you what a femur breaker is. So a femur breaker is a fictional torture device in the SCP Foundation, used to trap the SCP-106 into its contaminant chamber, and it's been memed because of the loud sound effects. This refers to the early designs for the Chipmunks and Chipettes in the 2015 series, and you might have seen the images before, but you probably wouldn't know they were early designs for the Chipmunks and Chipettes. These designs were also used in two things I'll get into later in the iceberg. Alvin and the Chipmunks actually existed before the Alvin show, and here I'll tell you the Chipmunks' origins. So Ross Sr. made a song called Witch Doctor, where he showed him in a duet with him, but with a high-pitched voice. And this started the Chipmunks, and Ross Sr. started selling albums with 3 singing chipmunks, with these high-pitched voices, who you may now know as Alvin, Simon, and Theodore, with their manager Dave, who was Ross Sr.'s stage name and original voice. Alvin and the Chipmunks had lots of merch in the 80s and 90s era, which some images of some of them were in my top 10 Gooby Woobies video, link in the description. But anyways, some were plushes, and books, and puzzle pieces. The craze was out there in the 80s era. The Chipmunk Adventure Month is an anniversary thing celebrated by the Chipmunk fandom on the 22nd of May each year. Normally in this period, people make lots of Chipmunk Adventure lyric videos, and celebrating the film overall, and is a fan favorite by some, including me. The creators of Alvin and the Chipmunks sued Universal Studios for $100 million, asserting that the studio failed to create movies or television shows featuring the characters and, as a result, destroyed an American icon. Bagdasarian Productions, led by the son of the Chipmunks creator, Ross Bagdasarian Sr., said in the Superior Court breach of contract suit filed Monday that Universal had failed to live up to an exclusive licensing agreement. Universal said it would have no comment on pending litigation. This was an NBC special made in 1985, and it's obscure, but it's not lost media, and it's watchable on YouTube. And the plot is a principal who really mean to kiss. Then Alvin becomes principal and does fun things for kids, and basically turns the school into a playground. The plot is similar to the Looney Tunes short, Buddy the G-Man, as in both instances, a place ran by a mean person gets replaced by someone else who the children, prisoners tend to really like. The Happy Hamsters, not Happy Harmonies, were the hamsters that acted like the Chipmunks. But there's a 4th member who could resemble Brittany. Anyways, little to no info is known about Ross Jr. suing the Happy Hamsters, or knowing who won. But the Happy Hamsters will be forgotten. This was a scene that was going to be in the Chipmunk Adventure, but was scrapped for lacking in funds and time. This was an animation that was used to promote the upcoming 2015 series. The animation was released in 2014, and Alvin had a much different design here, and was basically a test animation to the series, and the animation was nothing special. The animation was about Alvin saying that Dave forces him to clean his room. There was an iPhone app of Alvin and the Chipmunks released in 2012, which was a talking Tom type game where you could make him do notes, and he talks back to you. The app was removed the following year for unknown reasons, but was brought back a few months later. The app used the design of Alvin that was used in the test animation. There was alternate song in the episode, The Chipette Story, and it was called You Are Beautiful. It replaced New Attitude on DVD copies of the episode. Just like most shows, even the Bobbinocks, they have an unlicensed Persian dub, and the 2015 series was no exception. And the dub, just like any other Persian dub out there, had awful voice acting. Alvin sounded like a girl, and Brittany didn't even have a high-pitched voice. In the image for the song, You're the One I Want, from the album The Chipmunks in Hollywood, there was a description about Charlene saying she was one of the Chipettes. So maybe Jeanette and Eleanor, or possibly an early version of them, were already established. Who knows? Maybe we will in the future. In an interview that had Ross Jr. and Janice Carmen, they stated that there was going to be a new Chipmunks series, and that interview was in 2010, and it took 5 years to be made. Not as long as the wait between Pikmin 3 and Pikmin 4, that lasted an entire decade. The Nutty Squirrels were another Alvin and the Chipmunks knockoff that now had 2 members instead of 3. And just like the Happy Hamsters, they didn't have any manager. And I don't think Bagdasarian sued the Nutty Squirrels. because they were made before Ross Jr. was the head of Bagdasarian. In the 90s, there were these Chipettes sketches, made by Dan Haskett for a rumoured Chipettes film, and the Chipettes were adults. And one sketch showed Miss Miller in her deathbed, suggesting that this movie could have had Miss Miller dying. Yeah, I'm glad this wasn't made. I just found out. This was by someone who worked on the 80s series and done these sketches in their free time. I also don't even know why I put this on the Iceberg, but anyways. There's a meme in the Pikmin fandom called a Dandori issue, which is a fail in a Pikmin game, and the people dub it as a Dandori issue. The only way this relates to Alvin and the Chipmunks is there's a Jeanette version of the meme. This is a theory that the Chipmunks getting sold was in fact a rumour, because there wasn't any new information on it, and the news was about 2 years ago, so it could have been just some rumour. And Ross Jr. didn't leave any comment on it. There were even toys for the Alvin show, but not as much as the 80s series. An example were Alvin, Simon and Theodore soaps. And the Alvin show overall wasn't successful. And the Alvin show advertised Jello as well, but I don't think an Alvin Jello was ever sold. The Nutty Squirrels Percent was a show made in 1960, and the titular squirrels only appeared in the intro, and not in the actual episodes, and this show was mostly lost media, having only one out of the 150 episodes found. And the show was made by Transfilm World Animation, and it mostly repackaged cartoons of that era, instead of actually showing the titular squirrels. And in the intro, the song Girl Part 2 plays. I know you were expecting this to be some sort of creepypasta, but this is actually a project on Algadoo, where a hammer is shown and Alvin is standing, and the hammer hits Alvin, and fake blood comes out. This may not be true, but I think the 2015 series is cancelled, and not really put out too many information on season 6 and 7. And because of that, the show may abruptly be cancelled for some reason. It was intended to be cancelled after season 7 in 2025, but for some reason it got cancelled early. This isn't my theory. Instead, one made by someone called Poplurker. But the theory states that each incarnation of the Chipmunks was just slightly different. That in the Alvin show, the Chipmunks just sang a lot. And in the 80s version, the Chipmunks were just chilling with Dave. They sometimes sang, but not as much as the Alvin show. Also in the Chipmunks Go to the Movies episode, Back to Our Future, the Chipmunks remember Clyde Crushcup, but in the Alvin show, the Chipmunks never meet Clyde. Also in the 80s series, the Chipmunks were like celebrities doing concerts, and in the 2015 series, the Chipmunks were students, and also sometimes did songs. The 80s series had the Chipmunks and Chipettes going to school, but that wasn't shown too often. But in the 2015 series, that was basically shown every episode. Dave changed too. In the Alvin show, he was on stage with the Chipmunks, but in the 80s series, Dave was more of a father figure to the Chipmunks, same as the 2015 series. But Dave became more dumber, and in the 80s episode, when they met their Alvin show counterparts, the Alvin show versions acted a bit different to what they actually. Little Alvin and the Mini Monks was actually going to be a series that was going to air in 2005. Not much is known about the series, and the movie was basically a pilot to the series. The Chipmunks Go to the Movies also had an unlicensed Persian dub. For some reason, the intro music is the circus theme that you usually hear. Before we go into the last tier, subscribe to my channel, or not be able to watch anything Alvin related ever again. Now without further ado, let's go into the final tier of the Alvin and the Chipmunks Iceberg. This only applies to the Alvin show counterparts, and here's my theory on this. So I believe some studio had these chipmunks, and Dave bought them to treat them like slaves. And Dave wasn't good at singing, so he made the chipmunks do his work for him. This is another theory by me that states that The chipmunks and chipettes are human hybrids, that they share similar traits with humans, but look a bit like chipmunks and humans combined. Alvin and the Chipmunks had a couple live shows. The ones based of the Fox movies are fully available, but a live show from the 80s and potentially other Alvin live shows are lost media. One example is the Chipmunks and the Amazing Computer, which only has a few advertisements found, showing some footage from the live show. The ads show Alvin, Simon, Theodore, Brittany, Jeanette, and Eleanor. I don't even know why I put this so deep, but it's just Jeanette with Elmer Fudd's hat. That's it. I have yet another theory about Alvin and the Chipmunks getting sold. This one is about it being made by the Bagdasarians to scare people. So I believe Ross Jr. made the Chipmunks getting sold thing to trick people that they are actually being sold, but they are not being sold. Just something made up by Ross Jr. This is another theory that the Chipmunks are an alien life form, and this is similar to the human theory, but they resemble what aliens think humans look like. This is the last and the longest entry on the iceberg. But anyways, in the Looney Tunes episode, Buddy of the Legion, there's a character who is a bookstore owner and largely resembles Miss Smith from the Alvin 2015 series. But what I really wanted to talk about here is how the Buddy cartoons connect to Alvin and the Chipmunks. So Buddy resembles a young David Seville before he adopted the Chipmunks, and him exploring the world around him. Buddy's girlfriend, Cookie, resembles Miss Miller before she adopted the Chipettes, and the two were love interests until they just became friends when they adopted their chipmunk counterparts. And Buddy in Buddy's Day Out showed Dave as a child and him going out with a young Miss Miller. After the events of Buddy the G-Man, Dave stopped exploring the world until he adopted the Chipmunks. The music in Buddy's cartoons were music that Dave liked, especially the opening theme of every Buddy cartoon, which original track is unknown. Dave also had a dog called Bozo, which was Buddy's dog in the cartoons. Also, Dave probably would have been a big fan of the Bosco cartoons and loved the relationship between Bosco and Honey. He also loved the Bosco cartoons for how simple and easy it was to replicate. So he did cartoons of his own with Miss Miller, aka Cookie. And I don't know how beans would fit into this story. So that was the Alvin and the Chipmunks iceberg. Hope you enjoyed. And goodbye.